Celebrating 42 seasons on the air, Farm Week is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, as the government shutdown drags on, what's the impact?
They're the ag leaders of tomorrow, receiving the Young Farmers and Ranchers Excellence in Agriculture Award.
It may be winter, but that doesn't have to stop you from gardening.
And we'll soon say goodbye to one of the premier auto museums in the country. Zac Ashmore is off the highway once again. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Amy Myers.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for joining us today on Farm Week. With the government shutdown, the battle over federal funding remains deadlocked. Congressional leaders are standing their ground, waiting for the other side to blink. Meanwhile, rural America is forced to sit on the sidelines and wait for the deadlock to be broken.
As the 115th Congress convenes, the war of words along Pennsylvania Avenue over the partial government shutdown is focused on provocation rather than progress.
Look, the president's been willing to negotiate from the beginning, but he's not going to put our national security and the safety of the American people at risk.
The president cannot hold public employees hostage because he wants to have a wall that is not effective in terms of its purpose, not cost effective in terms of what the opportunity cost it is of federal dollars to spend. And the president has said Mexico's going to pay for this. Come on, let's anchor ourselves into reality. Mexico is not going to pay for this wall, so no.
While discussions of returning the federal government to full service remain stalled over the building of a wall along the southern U.S. border, portions of the Department of Agriculture remain at work. Inspectors monitoring meat, poultry, and egg operations, along with grain and commodity inspections, remain on the job. Import and export inspections continue as normal, as well as research-related infrastructure maintenance, which will allow projects to resume once the budget impasse is cleared. Market facilitation payments to farmers that have already been certified will be completed during the shutdown. Demand-side subsidies, including SNAP, will receive funding through January. School lunch subsidies will continue with the funds already distributed to individual states until all of the money has been consumed. Among the divisions of the USDA that remain shuttered are recreational sites that are part of the U.S. Forest Service, Farm Service Agency county offices, and the offices that generate agricultural statistics. The lack of statisticians means the market-moving January reports on wheat plantings and the final summary of the global 2018 crop will be delayed. As of Friday, the partial shutdown will have been in place for 2 weeks. There are 380,000 federal employees on furlough and an additional 420,000 working without pay.
That was John Torpy reporting. As of the recording of this edition of Farm Week, still no light at the end of the tunnel. Little to no progress was made during talks over the last weekend. The shutdown is the third of 2018, now stretching into the new year.
Meanwhile, with 38 million Americans on food stamps, the government isn't saying how much money remains in reserve to pay out benefits. We're told senior officials estimate there's enough money to pay SNAP benefits through January. Congress has never let funding run out to the point of defaulting on those payments. At the same time, Politico is reporting that the USDA, where 40% of workers are on furlough, is doing everything it can to blunt the shutdown sting on employees who are working but not getting a paycheck. It says that the agency is now letting workers charge travel expenses on their government credit cards. Finally, Senate Ag Chairman Pat Roberts has announced his retirement. He's held public office since 1980. He says he will remain in office through the rest of his term until 2020 and that he still has a long to-do list. He announced on his website that he will not seek re-election for a 5th Senate term.
Some of the next generation of leaders of Mississippi agriculture were recognized at the recent annual Farm Bureau meeting in Jackson. The honorees are involved in that organization's Young Farmers and Ranchers Leadership Program And the two couples honored this year are both from East Mississippi. The Young Farmers and Ranchers Excellence in Agriculture Award was presented to Matt and Brandy Carish of Octabahaw County. The couple have a cattle operation near Starkville, as well as having off-farm jobs. Matt is a consultant with an animal nutrition company in a 3-state region of the Mid-South. Matt's wife Brandy works off the farm with producers as an extension beef cattle specialist at Mississippi State. The couple is always ready to communicate agriculture's story with those not involved in farming whenever there's an opportunity.
It's our job, as young adults and young farmers and ranchers, we've got to tell our story and show what it takes to develop that heifer right beside you, or what it takes to put a piece of meat on our plate, a steak on our plate, or ground meat. What it takes to be, what all we're doing to try to feed the world.
When we get all of our farmers and ranchers united and bring them to the table, be it in the state capitol in Jackson or be it in Washington, D.C., we're a powerful voice whenever we all band together, and I think that's something really important that Farm Bureau does for us.
The second couple honored by Farm Bureau are from Noxubee County. Tyler and Sarah Herkamp are the winners of the Young Farmers and Ranchers Achievement Award. They grow cotton on land once owned by Tyler's grandfather. The Herkamps are active volunteers in their community and promote agriculture at every opportunity, including hosting field trips to their farm by local school groups.
It's more of a hands-on, get out there and just tell them what we do. Make sure that they know where their food comes from, where their clothes come from, and how we do things, rather than seeing how other people do it on the internet.
I wanted to farm my whole life, and to get an award for something that we do every day that we love is just amazing. We'd like to thank God for the many blessings, opportunities He's provided us with. Also, our incredibly supportive families.
Both the Carishes and the Herkamps travel to New Orleans this weekend to represent Mississippi in the national competition at the American Farm Bureau 100th Annual Convention.
We're almost to the middle of winter. Are you starting to get cabin fever? Getting itchy feet, wanting to get out in the garden? Well, if you can't do that, there is an alternative. Here's Gary Bachman with an explanation.
I can't wait to go outside, Joe. Me too. I want to plant flowers and corn and...
Look, I know it's the winter months and you want to get out in the garden, but there's got to be something better than this.
This is all we got.
Hey, I know a neat little project to help beat those winter blues. Let's make a terrarium. A terrarium is basically growing a plant in a jar, either closed or open. Almost any glass container will work. Other materials needed include aquarium gravel, glass pebbles or pea gravel, some river rock, and of course, plants. I'm going to start with a layer of blue glass pebbles for a pop of color. Next, a paper disc goes down, followed by a layer of river rock for a size contrast. And now comes the fun part, putting in the plants. There's a wide selection of succulents grown in 2-inch pots that can be used. I also like using pretty grafted moon cacti. After placing the plants, I add aquarium gravel that has a natural looking color to fill in around the plants. Watering is easy. Simply adjust the spray bottle to stream. Every couple of weeks, direct the stream of water to the plant root balls. We don't want to water the rocks. If you want more information and ideas for making terrariums, see the MSU Extension publication, How to Design a Closed System Terrarium. So next time you're desperate because the winter weather won't let you get out into the garden, making an easy terrarium might just scratch that itch.
Come on, Joe, let's go make another one.
I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman, and I'll see you next time on Southern Gardening.
Looks like a good way to combat cabin fever. So what's happening in the markets so far in 2019?
Well, Amy, two topics dominate the script this week in the markets: the government shutdown and trade with China. Looking at our headlines now, China buys a Mississippi-grown crop for the first time. USDA ag reports are delayed indefinitely, and many believe the adage cattle prices are only as good as the stock market. You might say it is a combined Christmas and New Year's gift to rice producers in Mississippi and other states from China. The monster of a rice market, as China is often called, will now buy U.S. rice. Traders have worked for decades to make this happen. Tom Fitzenmeyer and other brokers are still a little mystified.
I don't know. Politics gets in the middle of this to some extent too, so I don't know whether they did that to satisfy some requirement or some agreement that was made between the U.S. and China and the trade negotiators. I don't know. I'm not big on the rice market, but I'm not sure you can go to Brazil or Argentina and buy much rice. So if you need that and we've got it, maybe we're sort of in the driver's seat on that.
Meanwhile, U.S. and Chinese officials wrapped up 2 days of in-person trade negotiations on Tuesday of this past week in Beijing. Both sides are projecting confidence that a longer-term trade deal is possible. Well, it was almost 3 weeks ago now that China announced it is once again buying soybeans from the United States. What happened that week is described as the biggest bean buy of 2018, as well as the largest soybean purchase by China in 4 years. However, trader Dan Huber says China still has a lot of ground to make up as far as what the U.S. has lost in terms of bean export business.
Year to date, marketing year to date, September 1, we have exported 407,000 metric ton of beans to China. Last year at this point, we'd done 10 million metric tons. So it's going to be tough to make up for that lost ground. Plus, some of that business is probably not going to come back for many years, if at all. So yeah, I don't think we're going to need to have the bean acreage out there that we have had for the last 2 to 3 years.
The monthly supply-demand report from the USDA is not happening thanks to the continuing government shutdown. Looking back, though, at the December numbers, ag economist Josh Maples says there was a modest increase in U.S. ending stocks of corn before 2018 ended.
USDA left most of the numbers unchanged, or even the things that they did change was fairly modest across most of the commodities. So looking at corn specifically, production 14.6 billion bushels. You know, this is going to be up about 20 million bushels over last year, but the ending stocks number was raised about 50 million bushels, so exports was the big story there. Overall, looking at a lower ending stocks number than we had last year, though.
All right, as far as U.S. soybean production, no change there in the report. No change to bean ending stocks. Were there expectations for a change?
Not really. I mean, there was some expectations kind of around this number a little bit, but again, they didn't really change anything compared to the November report. So even though there wasn't a change, the big number in soybeans is that ending stocks number. You know, 955 million bushels. That's a huge ending stocks number, more than double that it was last year. So even though we didn't have any change month to month, that's still the big story in soybeans right now.
For cotton, increased U.S. production according to the report. No change to U.S. Also increased Mississippi production, excuse me. So a little bearish for cotton in these numbers.
A little bit, at least that was kind of the view when the report came out, but we've actually seen prices tick up a little bit the last, in the few days following the report. So maybe, initially, but it didn't really seem to have a lasting impact, at least over the last few days. Looking at production numbers, Mississippi production was up, but really it was the increase in Texas. We saw a pretty large increase in expected production in Texas that really drove those higher U.S. numbers.
Once again, the supply-demand, crop production, and grain stocks reports that were to be released this week by USDA are being delayed indefinitely until after the shutdown in D.C. ends. Well, time to ask you a question because the trivia quiz is next. Today's question is about an animal health problem, one that can develop during long cold spells. Here it is. What animals are more susceptible to the condition known as fescue foot? Is the answer A, horses, B, cattle, C, goats, or D, hogs? Stay with us to find out.
We'll take a break right here, but don't go away. Coming up on our Farm Week feature, we're off the highway with Farm Week's Zac Ashmore. In this episode, we hide away in an escape room and solve the next great mystery. And we'll say goodbye to one of the largest collections of classic cars in the country. Are you ready to ease on down the road? Hop in the back seat and rev it up with us. We've got a ticket to ride. That's coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
Mississippi 4-H celebrates a rich history of youth development through creative hands-on experiences. Programs emphasize leadership, technology, science, and agriculture.
But it's a lot more than that. Making the best better.
Before we get back to the market report, let's take a look at the Farm Week calendar. Just one item, but it's a big one, the International Agricultural Markets Workshop, coming up on January 17th and 18th at the Bost Extension Center Auditorium at Mississippi State University in Starkville. At this two-day event, you'll learn about formalizing the production operation as a business, identifying international markets, building relationships with buyers, navigating product shipment across the world, developing an online presence that fosters international relationships, and networking with your buyers around the globe. Register at the door for $40 or $30 ahead of time online at register.extension.msstate.edu. Your fee covers lunch and dinner on day 1 and a light breakfast on day 2. Find out what it takes to market overseas at the International Agricultural Markets Workshop. Now, check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
Trader Mark Gold has been looking over what cattle reports came out in December prior to the government shutdown. He says the downturn in the stock market did not hurt the cattle market as bad as it could have. However, he advises it's not a bad idea to go ahead and protect the downside even now until we get a little further into the new year.
I am surprised that the cattle market has held up as well as it has relative to what the stock market's done, which has been a trouble for that market. If we can continue to see the Dow move lower, then I think cattle, you need to be thinking about getting some hedges on, sell some cattle, buy a call if you think there's more upside, or at least have some kind of put to protect the downside.
The last cattle on feed report of 2018 might be described by some as down and up. Placements into feedlots during the month of December were down 5% from 1 year ago. Most of the cattle weighed less than 800 pounds. Marketings were up 1%. Total on-feed inventory is up 2% from December 2017. Time to wrap up the markets with another look at our trivia and our question: what animals are more susceptible to the condition known as fescue foot? The answer is B, cattle.
In our feature story today, an iconic American landmark will soon fade away into history. In Mississippi, the Tupelo Automobile Museum is closing, a collection of more than 230 cars, each one a prized possession. They literally will be off the highway. But first, solving mysteries in escape rooms. Here's Zac Ashmore with the story.
Welcome to Off the Highway, a show where we explore hidden gems all across the state of Mississippi that you ought to know about. I'm your host, Zac Ashmore, and today we're headed to Tupelo, Mississippi to check out Deadbolt escape rooms in the Tupelo Automobile Museum. Come on. We're here at Deadbolt Escape Rooms with Sean Brannon, one of the owner-operators of this escape room. Tell me, Sean, what is an escape room and why are they so popular these days?
Well, that's a very common question, Zach. So an escape room is an entertainment experience. Basically, we take participants, lock them in a room, and they have 60 minutes to find clues, solve puzzles, and just make their way through the room and escape before the 60 minutes is up. So it's purely an entertainment experience. We're not like a haunted house or anything like that.
Now, I've seen a few of these escape rooms and each has their own unique theme, right?
Right now we've got 5 different themes, and that's just to help us appeal to a wide variety of people.
Yeah, I've noticed that some rooms you do retire after a certain period of time because you do want to keep things fresh, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we sort of use the movie theater mentality. You know, our business is here, but You know, we want to keep changing the rooms because we've got plenty of people that have come and done every room that we have, and they just they'll message us, you know, when's the next room coming out.
So you do have rooms that are holiday themed sometimes as well, right?
We do currently right now. We have a room called Operation Rescue Santa. So Santa's been kidnapped. So you're charged with the task of solving puzzles and figuring out where Santa is and getting him back and saving Christmas for everybody.
So what kind of groups do you normally have here? Are people allowed to just walk in and do it, or do you have to make an appointment? How does that work?
So we do encourage people to book ahead through our website if they can, because that will allow them to guarantee the room and the time that they want to come and do an escape room experience with us. If we do have space and a group walks in, we'll definitely let them do a room. As far as groups that we get here, we get a lot of corporate groups. We get a lot of church groups, lots of school groups, but primarily the people that come to see us on the weekends are families, birthday parties, date nights.
I also heard that you guys have a Mystery Society box thing that you do. Could you tell me about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have something that we created about a year ago called the Deadbolt Mystery Society. And so what this is it's basically a murder mystery box that we've created, and it's a subscription box service. So when people sign up, as long as they're a subscriber, every month we're going to send them a new box. And this is something that we've created that's been great, especially for, like we were talking about, people who have done all of our rooms. This gives them some new material, some new puzzles to solve. It's also allowed us to reach people outside of Tupelo. I mean, we've been shipping to probably 20 different countries so far, in addition to the United States. So, I mean, the word about this company and this experience is really getting out. So being able to escape, you know, maybe the 9-to-5 job or whatever and come here and do something out of the norm, you know, is really great for everybody.
That's great. It's not just an escape from a room, but it's an escape from reality and escape from the drudgery of life.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That sounds great. Sean, thank you so much for talking to us. Mr. Stephen Mancuso, you are the overseer of this museum, correct?
That's correct.
Well, what can you tell me about this place?
So we were founded by Frank Spain. Frank was an engineer by trade and developed the first television station here in Tupelo, WTVA, which remained family-owned until just a few years ago. And he had this vision of bringing something back to Tupelo. He went to college at Mississippi State and graduated with a degree in engineering. His family had relocated here in the late 1920s and had a family business here, so Tupelo was a special place for him, and he really wanted to showcase this amazing collection that he had put together over the years of not just cars, but signs, automobilia. In 2002, the building was officially opened as the Tupelo Automobile Museum. We're open Monday through Sunday, 9 to 4:30 every day, with exception to Christmas and Thanksgiving. But we really showcase from a chronological order throughout history of the development of the car and the innovators that were a part of that. You know, we have the very first car that was built. It is our only replica in the building. And everything else, though, is here and original. And we have not just old cars, but we have very special versions of old cars.
Yeah, I have noticed that you do start from the very beginning, and you've got some cars that are one of a kind.
Absolutely. We have quite a few one-of-one factory-built cars that some of them are all original, with no one ever doing anything to them other than enjoying them. So we have some cars here that have their original tires. So really some interesting pieces.
You were telling me that the founder of this museum, that sometimes he would go to car auctions and he would buy the car and drive it back here.
He did that quite often, and you know, keep in mind that we have 187 cars that he purchased himself, and a lot of times he would, you know, first of all, there was no internet at the times that he was doing this most of the time. So he really, it took a lot of legwork and research, and it was truly the hunt for the car. And a lot of car collectors are kind of that way, but it was always the adventure, and that's really what Frank was after. He shared that adventure with his wife, Jane Spain, who still has a daily operation here in the museum today.
So this place really is a hidden treasure here in Tupelo, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, people don't realize a lot of times when they pass by. We have our own access right off the interstate, so it's very easy to get in and out. But when they walk through the doors, they really don't realize that we have a collection of worth over $20 million sitting right here in Tupelo, Mississippi, highlighting the development of the automobile from the very first all the way through to modern day cars. Whenever they walk through, whether they're a car person or not, they usually find something that they say, my dad had that car, Or I remember going to the drive-in and seeing those. Man, I always wanted one of those. And you just never know what you're going to discover and what memories you'll come across. So it's really an exciting thing to travel back in time and also to see where technology could still go. So,
Well, thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. When you think of Tupelo, Mississippi, normally you think of the king. But take it from me, there's so much more to this town than meets the eye. Well, that's it for this week. But if you know of any places that I ought to know about, send me a line. Who knows? Maybe next time I'll be off the highway in your hometown. Until then, take care.
All those cars will be sold between now and April. The collection could bring as much as $20 million. Some classic cars in that collection.
Oh, for sure. And those cars say a lot about the history of our country as well, don't they? Well, next week here on Farm Week, a serious look at agriculture. It turns out there's a direct correlation between lower farm income and a higher incidence of agricultural fraud.
We'll meet a USDA investigator who spent 30 years on the road looking into farm fraud, and we'll meet a young rancher who learned the hard way about hiding transactions from the feds. A three-part look at justice in agriculture next time on Farm Week.
Remember, if you ever miss a story or would like to watch one again, look for the past episodes at our website, farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.